Call the City of Richmond meeting to order, March 2nd, 2016. If everybody could please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody tonight. First item up for this evening is the approval of the agenda. We'll have a couple reports, and some of the reports are written reports for this evening. It's the only changes.
If that's the case, I'll just approve the agenda.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of meeting minutes from February 2nd and February 25th, 2016. Is there any questions or comments or inquiries of bills that are on there?
If not, I'll make a motion to approve minutes of February 3rd and 25th.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of bills to be paid. Is there any questions on the bills?
I have none, so I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Consent agenda for this evening, Resolution 116-15, approval of February 2015 journal entries. Item B is Resolution 117-16, Richmond Royals Baseball 2016 liquor license. Item C, acknowledgement of People Services February 2016 written report. Is there any questions or comments on any of those three items?
Just one question on the Royals. We have never had a complaint of, with their liquor out there, have we? No. We haven't, okay.
And this is pending their approval of?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as labeled before.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 6, consider ordinance 2016-101 annexing of land in Wakefield Township, parcel number 36237100000. It's the property out that's, for those of you who don't know, is the property behind the bus company, that open field. That's owned by C&D Granite, owners of Style. Kurt and Deb Style.
That property is surrounded at least 3/4 by the city at this time, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All the paperwork's been filed on that property, and we went through the 90-day period of what we have to wait. So this is the next step of moving forward.
Have we heard anything from the township besides that first letter, and they never filed that?
No.
Yeah, we did.
Matt in our office did, I think actually a couple telephone calls with their attorney, asking again for the additional tax, and he explained to their attorney that council really wasn't interested in doing that, and small dollars, I think they just dropped it.
So as long as the state hasn't heard from it and there's no objection here tonight, even if there was objection, either way, the council decision tonight would stand, correct?
Correct, there's that time for a hearing to be called through the state has passed, so.
Okay. With that information on the table, I make a motion to pass ordinance number 2016-101 in the annexation of the Style property.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 7, consideration of ordinance 2016-102, annexing the land in Munson Township, parcels number 23-135-190000, parcel number 23-136270000, parcel number 23.143260051, and parcel number 23.136 6470000. And if you look in your packet, those are listed as the Stanger property, the Hummerding property, the Lucan property, and the Schreifels property.
One question about the Schreifels property, is that the one that's out of the baseball diamond?
Yes.
Is that supposed to be under residential?
I'll check again. I'm pretty sure it is, but it says,
Since it borders again, the tip of it across the street would border, business.
it is
And it's
listed,
against business on the Garrick property.
it's listed currently as commercial industrial property. This is how it's currently zoned within the county.
Yeah, it's commercial. And we have it coming in as
What number are you on in the ordinance?
137647. Okay, you have that one. Then my question is the Lucan property, since they run a business out of there.
That's, for the county purposes, zoned as residential. If you choose to rezone it for something, you can do that, but it's listed at the county.
And
as
it will come in
residential.
as residential unless you decide otherwise, and you don't have to make that decision tonight. That is something that,
I think we should look into it because the gentleman, or the family, let's say, because his son is operating that same business in that area for 40 years. There's no sense in
and
having,
just so
you
the
know.
council's aware, they do have the right to continue that through the legal nonconformity. You know, anything that comes in is essentially grandfathered, is the
Okay.
common term.
I
so-
just don't want to freeze somebody out, even though I've not heard from these people objecting to this annexation.
So they
But-
would not have to give up their business. just
No,
because-
No, that's what I'm trying to make
Absolutely.
Yeah,
perfectly clear here, that,
We're not changing anything, we're just,
right,
They're
I
gonna be
just want to
counted.
make sure that they can keep operating the way they want, the way they have for at least 40 or 50 years. So.
And that's a protection under state law, so even if the city wanted to, you would be
Okay,
able to.
I just want to make it
Yep.
clear. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
any other discussion on the 4 pieces of property in Munson Township?
I'll make that motion to accept ordinance 2016-102.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. At this time, we'll move on to department reports. Tim's gonna do Kevin's parks report, or at least some of it.
First, we'll start with the arena. The ice season is on its final stages in the next 2 weeks. Tonight marks the end of broom ball, and St. John's will declare their championship tomorrow night. So, there's only a few youth teams still playing. Most of those will be playing their final games this weekend. We did have one team make it to the Minnesota State Hockey Tournament this year. Our Bantam B1 team will represent River Lakes in Moorhead next weekend. That's consecutive seasons for this River Lakes team in state tournament. Figure skating will take over the building for the remainder of the ice season, which performs on March 11th and 12th. And then the ice will be moved on the 13th, and the building will be transformed over to the dry floor. Lacrosse is scheduled some time out there, and Ricori and St. Boniface has yet to schedule some time yet. Spring training space is readily developing on the condition on the outsides. The Youth Hockey Beer and Wine Expo is Saturday, April 9th. So it looks like it'll be bigger and better than ever. The number of vendors exceeding last year's total. So everybody's welcome to come out and get a hold of anybody on the for tickets. The new locker room furnace has arrived from the manufacturer, and installation is being planned. Hopefully that'll be done in a couple weeks. And Zamboni's been running real well. We'll have to perform some extra maintenance for the resurf next summer. He pretty much believes that everything has been a good ice season. It felt like we were very busy all season long. We had lots of youth tournaments, high school games. We never really had that felt like a slow period, even during the holiday break. We had a nice increase in revenue over what was budgeted, so we know it looks like it was good there. The staff performed very well this season. He's very pleased with both the concessions and maintenance areas. With the ice schedule coming off at the end, staff will be finished for the year. Some staff will retain to help switch the building over. And there'll be no county services needed, so. The outside skating rink had a tough season. We did our best to get the ice in good shape, but fought the warm weather most of the winter. The rink is now finished with the sun getting higher in the sky. You'll be getting into the parks now that the ice season is finishing. The warm weather is allowing people to start walking the trails. The trail pavilion seems fairly well used this winter, and I'll keep up the cleaning. Be making the inventory projects for the park in March, and so this will be moving to the warmer months. Arts and Music is meeting tomorrow, March 3rd. We'll go over the summer concert events. There's some good ideas about marching bands, sponsors, charitable organizations together for each concert. Hopefully they'll have a concert schedule to council by the April meeting. So.
All right.
And since I'm up a little bit right after that, the Quarry Trail. We have great news. BNSS has accepted appraisal of the Phase 2 corridor, which is wonderful news. Thank you, Adam, for helping getting that done. Now we just need to file all the appropriate paperwork to complete the acquisition there. There will be some discussion about the existing trails. Because of the steel has dropped off, we'll have to take the task of removing the trails. Phase 1, the price of steel was higher, making the trails more valuable to the BNSF. So they took care of that rail removal. We'll see how that plays out. We should take control of the corridor sometime this summer. Design is 95% complete, making the project very close to being shovel ready. So. Currently we have $900,000 on hand. Those funds will be used for the corridor acquisition and trail design. We're probably searching for some construction money. On the 17th, Kevin presented our project to the Federal Enhancement Program, TAP, and our we requested was $700,000, which will help for the construction cost. This is our third attempt with this group for funding, and he was very pleased with how that went. We pretty much think hopefully we'll get that funding this time around. And when they met with state representatives and have requests that the state capital be placed on this year's bonding bill, we're asking for $1 million on that, which complete the trail construction. Right now, with the existing monies that we have, we'll continue to keep beating the bushes, remaining funds we need. And tomorrow is our next meeting in Rockville. So.
I do have a question for the Quarry Trails.
Yes, sir.
And maybe either yourself or Adam can answer. The bridge in Cold Spring that goes through where the trail goes on through over the Sauk River, how much of that does the trail own? Does it own just the trail, or does it own 10 feet on each side of the trail, or what does it own where it crosses the river?
The trail board does own the bridge and the decking and the embankments. As it comes through the old granite company site, that's pared down, and there is a point where it flares as it gets close to the bridge to cover that embankment, the bridge embutment there. I don't know exactly how far out that is. Otherwise, that strip through there is only 30 feet in the granite company site.
Okay.
The rest of the trail is, for the most part, where you're not talking about in Cold Spring, is about 100 feet wide.
Okay. Oh, they were just asking the corridor. I've had a few people ask that go down there and fish from the bridge, and we're just curious on how much they actually owned, so that they're on the trail part of it, not on the granite company property, for a better way of saying it.
Sure.
So that was the question they had, and I said I'd ask the next time I would have a chance. Does anybody else have any questions about Quarry Trail, or where they're in the process? Thanks, Tim. Public Works, Gordy's not here tonight. I do have one thing to bring up on Public Works, actually two things. The potholes, as soon as it's nice enough out, if he can do something with, there's a lot of them, and they're not little ones, they're some pretty deep ones. If guys see some around town, let Cindy know, so that, I mean,
Okay.
The other one on Public Works side of things, I received a complaint last week on Central Avenue North between Main Street and First Street. Some of the homeowners there don't appreciate everybody making U-turns in the middle of the street, being that that street's nice and wide, and if there's no cars there, people come past the businesses and they do a U-turn, and every one of them houses there have little kids. Well, 3 out of the 4 houses have little kids, and the lights shine in their houses at all hours of the night. They were asking if there was any way the city would consider putting a U-turn, no U-turns in that area sign up. I know we don't have any anywhere else in town, but this is a commercial going into a residential area that, I mean, we don't seem to get any complaints anywhere else. This is the first one we've had, from my knowledge, in a residential area.
First Street and what?
Between Main Street and the church, in that corridor.
Central.
On Central. Yeah, Central and Main Street.
Maybe because we put a light there now, that can.
Well, you know, they made a complaint, and I said we'd address it on the council and see where it takes. If you guys want to all look at it, and maybe we'll put it on the workshop, if we'll act upon it at that time and see if we think.
I believe we should turn it over to our law enforcement, because I don't think you can make a U-turn in the middle of any street, no matter what
You
it
can
is.
make it anywhere. The law says I can turn around right on Main Street anywhere I want to. Because you have nothing that
That has
states you
changed?
can't. In Richmond you can, Cold Spring you cannot. Cold Spring has it, you can only make U-turns on
On intersections.
an extra intersection. In Richmond, we've never adopted anything about doing any
I thought that was state
U-turns anywhere.
statute, within 300 feet of intersections. But
You can turn around anywhere you want to. Well, we'll bring that back up. I just want to bring it up. There was a complaint that was given. I brought it up to Cindy's attention earlier this week, and I said I was going to bring it up tonight. That's all I have for Public Works.
just one, make a note of Central Avenue and First Street South, and street light is out. To check on Central Avenue all the way down, let's check, because they're all the same age.
Okay. Anybody else have anything that Gordy should be looking into that you've seen out and about? Okay. All right, we'll move on to open administrator position. Just for the public's knowledge, we do have 13 applicants, but that's as far as we're gonna talk about it, I guess. 14 applicants, sorry. The only thing I had on that topic was on the back page of your council packet. I did make a suggestion, and I have received how many of these kind of similar requests in my box this past weekend, since they know we're going through this process about having, putting a committee together instead of the council doing it all by itself. But I guess I just put it out there, and it was up to the rest of you what you wanted to do with it, if you like that idea or not, or I kind of was going to leave it open to what everybody thought. I mean, I don't want to make this a long ordeal tonight, but it's just, I would like some input from the residents, because I said that's something that we've tried to do in the past. The last committee was made up mostly of residents, and I think 2 council members at the time. I think, Mike, did you sit on the board the last time when Dan was hired?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I did.
I believe we're trying to be as transparent as possible as far as trying to bring somebody new in for the position, and kind of would like the city residents to see that. So that's my suggestion. I'm not saying that has to be exactly what we do, but if somewhere in that realm of, and I did put city attorney on there, I just wanted to make sure that everything was, I don't want anything to go awry, or, that we're doing everything by the book the way we're supposed to.
Yep.
I just have a couple of questions here. The last 2 items you have on there, they're staff members. I don't know if they should be on a hiring committee. That's like having the inmates run the jail. So,
I mean, we could go to 4. The only reason I put the staff representative, because somebody's got to kind of
there was a
facilitate.
comment from our acting
I
city.
think I was just called an inmate.
The only reason I added the staff person was because somebody kind of has to run the meeting, and she's obviously going to be taking care of the applicants,
Wow.
because that was the only reason I added her as one of the people. Somebody's got to take care of the applicants, that they're put away every night when they're done and nothing leaves the room.
Wow.
With that theory. That was the only reason I added that position. We could put 3 residents on, 2 council members, the city staff, and the attorney, and make that be either your 5 or your 7, however you want to break it down. Like I said, I had how many different combinations given to me. This is the one that I kind of liked. But if we don't have to decide this tonight, because this isn't, we're not that far, but we would have to have it decided by our next meeting, because obviously that's,
That's the 17th?
yes.
I think you would almost have to somewhat decide tonight, so that way if you do residents, they have a chance to come in, because I mean, you want to start the interviews fairly quick after the 17th, I would assume.
The thing is, we're still gonna do our grading, like we had talked about. Each one of us get the grade through everybody, all 13, or all 14 applicants. And that way that gets brought to this committee, that this is how each one of us council members graded this person. Because I feel that's important, as far as Pat might be looking for something on applicants, I might be looking for something on applicants, and everybody has their own opinion. I think that should come to the group as information. As this is how each one of us graded the applicant, and then now it's that committee to figure out how and who they're gonna bring forward. I mean, that was at least my idea of what I thought we were doing, was to get it, you know, we weren't gonna eliminate anybody by how we graded them. The grading was just where we thought people graded according to their resumes.
Yep.
Because until you actually interview them, you're not gonna really get a sense of who they are. I mean, you can have a resume that looks great, but if you can't come here and interview in front of us, you know, that might change your opinion of that person. So, Josh?
So is your plans to all 14 applicants, rate them on the resumes, and then interview all 14
No.
of them?
We were, if we go with this idea of going down to this group, we're gonna grade them, and that's the end of that until this committee gets done. The committee will get all the paperwork, and then they can sift through and figure out how they want to come up with the 2 or 3, whatever they decide they want to bring forward to the council at the end.
Okay.
It's gonna be up to the hiring committee to bring forward the 3 applicants to the council to see where we go with it. Does that sound like an idea or not, or do you want to do something different?
Can I ask, so you want the hiring committee to bring you 3 names, not bring you one recommendation to hire? You want them to bring you names of people that you
I would say the
want
top
to then
3.
interview and then decide. So the hiring committee will never meet these people, they'll just go through your paperwork.
Well,
Is
they're,
that-
yeah, for the most part. I would like us to grade them, because that's what we agreed upon. We were gonna grade them, so that way, you know, if I'm looking for strictly a PR person, and maybe Tim's looking for a strictly numbers person, well, you're gonna grade people different according to their resume, because you're gonna value certain things more than others. I put more value in if somebody has the things I'm looking for versus if they, you know, if you're looking for an experienced person or a inexperienced person.
Now I get that part, it's the next part. So then you have the hiring committee.
The hiring
that
committee would be,
Takes your paperwork and meets with the resumes and reviews the resumes and
And cuts them down to 3.
and then okay.
and as far as,
Or not? I
Right,
think
Yeah, that's a very good question.
but I thought we'd leave that up to the hiring committee to decide. Do they want to go bring all 14 of them people in here and interview each one individually, or do they want to
Bring it
only-
down to 7 and then, you know.
kind of like that? Bring it, maybe they want to break down to the top 5 already and they'll interview only those 5 or whatever what they decide, to get down to the last 3 that end up coming to this room in front of us to be interviewed one more time in front of us.
If I maybe can make 1 or 2 comments here. One thing I urge you to be cautious about is applicant information is private, is confidential until there's a winnowing down, whether it's the end finalist or just a selection of a subgroup. And so if the hiring committee decides to interview half of your 14, those 7 then, now they're gonna be, their information is gonna be public. And so whether that's good or bad from the council's perspective is, you know, council's choice. I would just kind of caution you that if you're eliminating a bunch of them without the interviews, that sometimes that can scare off people. People are much more comfortable if they're, currently employed in a similar position. They don't want it to be known that they're out looking for a job unless they know they're in the top 3. And so if you're saying we'll interview the top 7, you may have folks who withdraw their application because there's still a fairly good shot at them not getting the job. So in my experience, I think you'd want to give your hiring committee a little direction on whether they should interview them all or not, just because they may not be thinking through that concern.
Well, obviously there'd be 2 council members on that committee also, so that's,
And the rating system that you looked at last time would, part of having a rating system, of course, everybody's looking for something different, but a rating system allows you to look specifically at number of years of experience, so that if you...
Apples to apples.
Yeah, and if you end up with 2 of them, say, that score a 10 points out of 100, that might not be the person that you want to have. And collectively, this would go on a sheet, and so, each one of you gave them between 10 and 15 points. That's probably not the one that you need to bring forward even to a hiring committee.
Right.
10 points out of 100, where you may all have, each of you individually have these 3 that score 98 points out of 100 just in each of your scoring. When you're looking at this, and yes, you're looking at numbers, but that is why they do the rating sheet. Those are probably more likely the ones that you would want to bring forward rather than the guy who got 12.
Yeah, and
Only because of what you just said, asking 14 people to come in and interview, and each of you already scored this person at 12. You're not looking at this person the
No,
same
we
way
don't
you
want to.
looked
We don't
at-
want to do that.
at
Waste
this-
everybody's
at
time.
That's
this
waste.
one.
That's a waste of time.
at least
Right.
you don't have 100 applicants. So I mean,
Right.
not that you don't want more applicants.
It's very, very substantial for a small town to
Yeah.
have 14 applicants. I think that's very good.
I do too.
how about this committee, if we want to change some of the peoples around, if everybody could have something to Cindy by Friday. I still like the 2 council members. I don't have a problem with moving the other ones. I still want the city attorney on there just for the fact of making sure we don't do anything wrong
Right.
or are accused of being doing something wrong, so.
I'll give a plug for the city staff. They're the ones who work with this person
Well,
on a daily
I think you took that a little bit out of perspective.
I know.
As city staff member to do the staff items, yes, I can
Right.
see that on there. As a representative of the committee, that we have different opinions on. Okay.
So with this, if I could make one little change, now that we've talked about this, why don't we make it the 2 council members and the 3 members that don't get to be the 2 council members on there, each one of them gets to pick their city representative who they want to put on it. So whoever, so we'll move that to 3 and we'll eliminate, you want to eliminate the one after the residents?
Yes.
The other set of staffers, so we'll eliminate the chief's position, we'll take that one out of the mix.
Because
It's not that- it's
the
not
reason
that-
is point blank. If this gets in there, then we should have somebody from the maintenance department.
Yeah.
Then we should have some because they're employees.
So we'll do 2 council members,
And the perks.
3 residents, and then Cindy will take the city staff position, and then Matthew or Adam, whichever one's gonna be willing to come.
I'll just add one thing to your comment.
Yes.
The 3 city staff people, other than the fire department, did talk about it, and really the person that, when we sat and talked about it, we said the person who's been here the longest, which would be Kevin, has the most years, would be, to make sense to be as the city staff representative. So we did talk about that, rather than having somebody from Parks, somebody from, and having that person be on there as a city staff
So
representative.
realistically, you'll end up with 5 people with the city staff and the attorney being here. I mean, I just included it, set it a 7-person hiring committee, but virtually this way, you'd end up with a 5 plus the 2, making sure everything's done right.
So the city attorney is not a voting, it's not somebody that you want voting on this, or,
And I would not be comfortable with our office
No.
participating in that.
So
Either.
virtually, I just mentioned as a 7-member board, but obviously you'll have 2 council members, and each one of the other 3 council members will pick who the other representative is.
I think, sometimes you hear the term ex officio for the, kind of participating but non-voting. I think that's a,
Right.
okay.
So is everybody fine with doing it that way?
That's usually their duty, is just to oversee everything, make sure we don't step outside that bound.
But are you saying that the city staff representative wouldn't really have a say? It would just be the 2 council members and the 3 residents?
More or less. The other 2 are going to be here for moral support and giving information, because I have no idea what Cindy's going to say. She kind of knows what Marty did while she was here. Are some of these things that they have, are they going to correspond with what we have here now? She's probably going to be the best one that can tell you if some of their stuff's going to match with what we have, or are they coming from a totally different system that there's going to be some bugs in the system to change over. If they're not familiar with Banyan, financial, if that's going to change, it's going to take time for somebody to come in and redo all the bookwork.
But that's why I believe that at least the city staff representative should have a vote, and I believe that there should be 7 people that actually have a vote. Because the more people that have an opinion and can put their whole vote into it, I think would be better.
The other problem we end up with the 7 people is trying to get all 7 of them in the same place at the same time on the same night, because it just seems like you're going to find out you're going to have a hard time finding one representative each that you're going to be comfortable sending here as your own person, because scheduling becomes a nightmare trying to get people to show up. So everybody fine with going to 2 council, 3 residents, and the attorney and the city staff?
Okay.
Okay.
I guess I would still prefer more people.
What's everybody else think? Is 5 enough, or would you like 7?
I feel 5 is okay.
Yeah, I think.
I don't know.
Well, one of the reasons I'm bringing this up, because I guess, like Pat said at our last meeting with the potential fire hall committee, he wanted each of us to bring 2 people in. So, then you're going from 5 people, you're adding 10 more, so you're going to have a committee of 15, where this might be just as important a decision, if not more important. Because, they're here on a daily basis, basically running the city, so I believe a bigger committee for that would be better.
Well, maybe you misunderstood me. At the most that would be on that committee would be 10.
Okay, well, that's still twice as much as you would have
Correct,
here.
but that's into building, and that's into everything else, and everybody else has expertise. Compared to the information here. It really doesn't make any difference to me if you feel that we should have 7. The thing is to find people, another additional 2 residents that would like to put in probably, 8 hours to go through this stuff? Roughly, I'm just trying to figure a couple 2-3 hour meetings times
I haven't
2.
quite figured out what they're exactly doing, but
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
If you're going to do, even if you bring in 5 people for interviews at the end, you're still going to have some time spent to get down to this.
And that brings up the item 2, are you gonna be paying these people, or are they gonna be volunteers?
Adam, you gotta.
One thing some of the other cities we work with have done is when they've done these hiring committees, and this is a pretty common route to go, they'll ask for a representative from their planning commission and from their EDA to participate, because those boards obviously have interaction too. So if you're looking for other sources for people, those might be good groups to think about trying to pull someone from.
I see where the mayor is coming with the appointments of them, trying to keep the balance of the council, the 3 and the 2, which kind of makes sense to me. And if we want to put in, if you want members from the EDA and the planning, well, that's fine, then you'll be up to your 7.
But I'm still also saying that the staff representative should have a vote too. Because like Cindy said, they're the people that deal with them every day on a day-to-day basis. They see them more than we see them.
But I think their input's going to be given anyway when you start going through the process, you know, they're gonna ask her questions. Well, does this person have the qualifications that can do some of the stuff we have? I think that's gonna be where she's gonna come in on almost every one of these interviews of saying, yes, this person has Banyan, so they're gonna know this system. They know how we do our water system. Every place does things differently. You'll find that out when you go tour some other places. Their paperwork is a lot different than we do things here.
Right.
You know. But doesn't matter to me one way or the other how we go. It's either gonna be 5 or 7. We just can't keep an even amount. That's pretty much. Mike, what do you think? 5 or 7?
You know, again, too, the question is that to be able to, you know, come up with 7 people to figure out a time that will work for everybody too. That's always a difficult thing. I know I've been on a few hiring processes and committees and stuff too, and that seemed to be one of the hardest things to be able to get through, to get the amount of people, you know. I'm fine with either or, I guess. I'm okay. I think we can do it with 5. I think it can be just fine with 5 if we have an additional 2 more to make it 7. If everybody can work and schedules can work, you know, then I'm totally fine with that too. I think what we need to get kind of more concerned about is, okay, wherever we're at with these numbers, and then we need to know how, you know, which, you know, Josh made a point that we should probably have some type of guideline or some type of breakdown currently right now tonight before we get into our workshop on the 17th about, okay, we agree upon 5 or we agree upon 7 tonight, you know, then of the 14 applicants that we have, okay, what are we going to do with that after they're all rated? You know, are we going to take into consideration and narrow that down to 5 people, may it be 7 people, we'll cut it completely in half, you know, from how things were rated. And then with those particular applicants are left, that in turn is when we decide, you know, to then get the committees involved and everybody, and then go from there and then break it down one more time into the final 3 or whatever. The key thing I don't think we want to be able to do, I don't mind the committees. I think it's a good thing to have because you got lots of other people's inputs and what they'd feel and who they'd feel would be a good person for this position. The one thing that we don't want to do, we don't want to actually have a situation where a committee decides that they would approve one person, okay? So I'm meaning this is the one person that they would like to see and accept, and then they present that to the council. Okay. Okay. I don't want that to happen. I would rather see, again, to let it get broken down after all the committee people and discuss and everything. Let's get it down to the final 3 or whatever, and then let the actual interviewing process then finalize and begin that way. So committee can have an input, but not just one final decision to.
Well, you just have to write that in their guidelines.
Exactly.
They have to come up with a 3 recommendations.
Exactly. That's really what we're after.
And whether they do it on the paper form of interview, or if they do it in a regular.
Exactly.
If they want to do interview 7 and cut them down to 3 and say the final interview will be done by the city council.
Yep.
Of the last 3.
Yep.
At least then they have some input along the way too.
Well, that's exactly.
So there's actually a checks and balances of us rating, them interviewing, and then the final interview.
And then the final.
Josh?
I have one question for, you said this is quite common. How do other towns normally do it? Do they, come up with 3 recommendations to the city normally, or do they sometimes 1, or?
So I think, I'm trying to think. Foley's the last city that has gone through the hiring of an administrator position. And so they have a hiring committee. They had actually council members and department heads rank all the applications. They had a form. And before they started ranking, they said anybody who, does not have at least 60 points out of 100, they're automatically winnowed out. And so we go through, we rate everybody, kick out 5 of them, we got 10 left, we interview the 10, then that committee recommends 3 of those 10 to the council. Council then and you can do this different ways, but I think if you're going for transparency, probably the easiest way to do that is have the council conduct those 3 interviews, have public meetings with the full council, you have the applicant here, the public can be here, obviously they don't get to say anything or participate, but you have your kind of prepared questions, you take turns asking those questions, you ask those same questions of each of the 3 applicants, you let them answer and follow up and kind of give them a little time at the end to make whatever pitch they want to, you ask questions. You guys are taking notes. You usually at a later meeting, because if you're going to want to run those all 3 at the same day, so you know,
That we've done
so at a
before.
later meeting, whether it's a workshop or a council meeting, you work through who you guys think is the best person for the job, and hopefully there's consensus and you vote on it at that point. And that's kind of the typical process.
No, thank you. That was,
Yeah.
So, in other words, if we do like we said, we'll rank them, then have them go through the committee, and they can bring it down to 3 applicants that are gonna come forward, you know, down to the 3 that they'll bring up to the council in the end. And at that time, then we'll get to that point.
and is the committee going to interview?
The committee will take care of everything up to those 3 applicants coming in front of us, in front of the full council at that given
They
time.
won't do any interviews with them.
No.
No.
They're not going to do any interviews, just
No.
look at paper.
Right.
That's up to,
Well, it's up to, I mean, you don't want them to interview, I mean, you don't want to break the 14 down to a certain number, like the top 6, and let them interview them to see where, if what 3 they want to bring forward, or do you want to just go strictly off of reading off the resumes?
I believe we should have the resume and then interview 6 or whatever, whatever whatever that committee decides to come up with, have a cutoff like was somewhat discussed and say, okay, these are the 5 that move on, and you can tell your applicants there will be, to conduct this job or to be hired here, there will be 2
interviews.
2 interviews
Yeah.
at minimum. You know, and that's not uncommon to have 2 interviews for a position
Right.
that's,
If not more.
Okay. I
You
guess
know,
think
so-
that way, yeah.
Do you want to set a rate, like you said, a rating score, so that when you do this and you cut it off, so that you're not bringing the person who scored 30 to them and having them look, well, part of it is you don't want to waste the interviewer's time, the interviewee's time either. If you're never going to consider that person.
Right.
And why would you? If everyone here is scoring them at a 30, you will never consider them.
is it better to have a cutoff point, or is it better just to say the bottom 40% are gone?
you know, and I do think it's okay if you want to kick that to the committee to make a decision, as long as they determine what that cutoff's gonna be before they start into the process.
Before they see anything. Yeah.
Because, you know, if that committee has a good schedule and they think we want to interview all 14 before we kick the top 3 to the council, great. If they, you know, are working with time constraints and they want to say the top 50% we're going to interview, great. I mean, I think maybe letting the committee
The
make
committee
that,
kind of decide that.
but they should make that on the front end before they
Right.
start going through.
Okay.
So we'll leave it up to the committee to decide on how many, but in the end of the day, there'll be 3 people that'll interview for the final spot that'll come in front of the council.
They might interview 7.
All right, is everybody fine with that?
Okay.
Well, that's your cutoff.
Obviously, we have to commit on who the 2 council members are gonna be. And I will not be one of them. And I think Josh has mentioned to me as well, he did not want to be one of the 2. So between the other 3 of you have to decide. I did put the longest sitting ones, but that doesn't mean that they have to be. They can be,
Can you explain that?
I just figured they were on the council the longest, but as far as I'm concerned, I don't have a problem with any one of us being on
No,
that
I guess
committee.
when you say longest, what do you mean?
The longest tenure of being on the council. Mike's been on the council the longest of anybody, I think, and then Tim has been on since then.
I guess you add it up, and I've got both of them.
Yeah, I know that way you do, Pat, but
So,
like I
what do
said,
you mean by the longest? That's why I want the definition.
Longest without a break, is that,
like I said, we need 2 council members that I really don't want to pick. I would like you guys to figure out who's gonna go on, because the other one is gonna get to pick a resident to come on that committee. So if one of you guys don't think you got the time to do it, then that would be the person that should bow out and let the other ones do it that have the time to do it, because it's gonna take some time. And that's why I don't want to be on that committee, because I don't have the extra time to do those extra days. And Josh works out of town most of the time, so he didn't want to do it either. So I'll leave it up to the 3 of you. I don't want to pick and choose, because I don't have a problem with any one of you representing it. So it's up to you guys. You guys got to know your schedules.
I don't have a problem.
I don't know your schedules, so. If you guys want to talk about it and leave Cindy know by Friday so we know who it is, because the other person.
Let's.
I mean, you guys gotta know your schedules. I know you guys both work out of town a lot, so you guys gotta know your schedule. And then so Josh and myself will start looking for our resident, and then whoever of you 3 decide not to be on it, we'll have to find your resident and let her know. Okay?
So we're gonna do the 7 voting? 7 members? Or we're doing the 5?
We're doing the 5.
Okay.
2 council members, 3 residents, and then the staff person and the attorney will be at those meetings to make sure everything is done
Gotcha.
according. Is there anything else to talk about on the administrator position? Council report, Pat, Mike, do you have an EDA report for this evening?
We've obviously have nothing written down here, but we just had a meeting here. Was it a few weeks ago, Pat? I'm just losing my time here. A few weeks ago, some of the good news that we have going on currently would be that the empty vacant lot that actually sits right by Winners Plumbing and Heating on the corner that is currently owned by Stearns County. We had one of our EDA council members write a letter to Stearns County asking them if they'd be interested in letting us purchase that piece of land back, to get it back actually on the city. And it sounds like they accepted our offer, and so now we're moving forward and basically being able to look at that piece of land. Why are you shaking your head?
who accepted the offer?
Well, didn't Stearns County?
I didn't make anything to do with the offer. I sent them the notice that was approved by the council. last
Oh, okay,
week
I'm
that
sorry,
said
my
if
fault.
the EDA
Yeah.
purchase it, the city of Richmond waives the water bill and will defer the assessments.
Okay.
That's the part that I sent off to the county, nothing about it.
Now it's up to the EDA just to,
Correct.
Right.
to follow it up and say,
Okay,
yes,
sorry,
we're
that
in the
was my
process.
fault on that, so.
We're all in the right train of thought.
Right,
It's just that's how
exactly.
it came out. That's all.
Yeah, so anyways, but we've been working with that. We're currently right now with the BRE. We have now a deal going on with hopefully sometime starting this spring. They are implementing a bike usage that is going to be something that is going to be sponsored by them, which will be having access to accessible bikes to be able to use on the trail. If people happen to come in town and they're here for a while or they're on vacation and they maybe don't have a bike but would like to use the trail. So they're currently in process. They are purchasing, what is it, Pat, 9? Is it 9 bikes?
It's in that ball. There's so many adult,
Yeah, so many
male, so
adult,
many female,
females,
children,
children.
and a real small one anyway. I'm not quite
Right,
sure how they-
exactly. And so we're hopefully going to get that up and running. I think, I don't know if that's the first part of the spring or early summer. We're going to have that implemented. And then there's going to be a bike rack out there by the bike pavilion where those are going to be accessible to be able to be used and returned, and hopefully we keep good track of them and make sure hopefully they all come back safe and sound. So other than that, what else have we been doing, Pat?
Well, we still, the BRNE is giving classes, one of their committees is giving some business classes on business information, whether you're buying or selling businesses. I seen it was in the front page of the Cold Spring Record, so if anybody's interested, I'm going to refer to get the information on that there. The revolving loan fund is still out there. The matching grants for beautification of frontal businesses is still out there for this year. And we're working on I think we got about 8 items on our wish list that throughout the year, but these are the priorities at this time.
Right.
So, pretty busy.
Just to mention on your business retention, that meeting will be Thursday, March 10th at 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. There'll be coffee, juice, and rolls, and that meeting will be at City Hall for that presentation, for that seminar. And it's free to the public to come.
Whether you're business owners or not, or whatever, if you just want to maybe thinking about a business or thinking about selling one. They're supposed to be touching all kinds of different topics.
Right.
Does anybody have any questions about the EDA? If not, we'll move on. Thanks, guys. Tri-City Cable, next meeting is in April. I believe it's the second Wednesday in April, which would put it at the 13th at 5 p.m. at Ricori Media Center. Is there any other council reports for the night? Request for council action tonight. Is there any purchase allocations, transfers? No. Other matters of concern, your dog license are due May 1st, and after May 1st, they go from $10 to $20, so in your best interest to get them done by May 1st. I do have one other matter of concern. The Richmond Lions Club approached me that they never received a bill for 2015, which is usually done by December. So it must have slipped through the cracks someplace that...
I went back and looked at 2015, 2014, 2013, 2012, and they were all paid between February 27th and March 5th. But they do have the bill now, or they should have. It's been mailed.
If you go back and look in the contract, it says they're supposed to get the bill by the end of December.
Yeah.
So I'm just relaying a message that I was given to by their secretary that we aren't exactly following through with our bill system of what we put in place. Does anybody else have any other matters for tonight? Our next meeting is March 17th at 6:30. It is a regular meeting / workshop. Is there anything else anybody would like to add for this evening? Seeing none, have a safe evening. Enjoy your evening.